Leadership is subjective. Everyone has their own way of leading, and it varies from cultures, financial statuses, countries, and mindsets. Most of all, it varies with generations. Baby boomers, the generation born between 1946 to 64, were looking for escapes and were troubled by impressionism. Their managers and company owners were mostly rich men who came into money through generational wealth. And at that time, the demand for factory work was on the rise. And the need to get out of the house was deemed even more important. The reason was the World War II troubled parents pushing them to be perfectionists. The leaders of that time were rigid, strong minded, and looking to learn new things other than waging wars. When baby boomers became leaders and parents, they wanted their kids to be like them, but not like their grandparents. Baby boomers gave birth to Gen X. Gen X lived most of their lives in search of security, just like their parents, so that they could live an easy life, just like their parents. But the problem was the leaders they had were too unstable, just like the economic and societal situation because of the bipolar world that existed at that time. Everything was about sticking to their side, supporting their blog, and consuming the government fed content. And this meant that more workforce was created than leaders. The generation before millennials is the most mentally troubled generation, according to me. And it wasn't their fault, but the time they grew in. Things changed with Gen Y or the millennials or my generation. All of a sudden, they became global citizens and not just part of one block. The internet was a thing of the present. Their leaders weren't too adapt to the situation or the sudden change. And this generation of millennials also had more entrepreneurs than their predecessors because of that. Innovation, work-life balance, mindfulness, purpose-driven jobs, and flashiness became a part of their life. This phase, this little phase of innovation and whatnot also created rebels. Rebels who didn't agree to everything what they were told. Parents and managers became obsolete for them. Now they needed confidence, someone who could be with them and understand their problems. But their predecessors had no clue what all these things meant. So the leadership gap kept on increasing. Millennials became self-reliant because of that. They understood if something needed to be done, they would have to do it themselves. It may take some time, but at least it will be done in the right way. And that was the reason of the trust issues in the millennial generation as well. When the Gen Z came into the picture, they were fully digital in their space. They were the first generation who didn't care much for the previous generation because if you didn't know their digital world, they didn't care for your world either. Even though they are all for inclusivity, diversity, being global citizens, trying new things, and being totally in sync with 5,000 things happening on their 8 different gadgets, be it watch, their glasses, phones, etc., they felt alone. And as per the Pew Research Center, 58% of the Gen Z have reported symptoms of depression. And I'll tell you the reason behind it. Being the first of its kind has its problem. The world on social media is global, it's huge, it's big. But what they seek is closure. The lies are an open book, everybody can read it. But what they seek is someone to share their secrets with. The problem was their leaders are millennials, like me, who were born in the digital era, but they're not fully digital citizens themselves. And that was a huge issue. But now the question arises, how should you prepare a generation of Gen Zs in such a way that they become the efficient leaders of tomorrow? Leaders who are capable of leading governments, institutions, education systems, corporations, banks, and so many other major things. You must be thinking that it's a complicated answer, but let me tell you, my friend, it isn't. It's complicated, but it's also simple. Do what your leaders didn't do for you. Do what your leaders should have done for you. If it means talking to the generation, the Gen Z, in their own way, on their preferred platforms and in their own styles, do it. They already have so much information available to them on each platform they can access. Teach them how to segregate the information from disinformation. Be their friend, be their confidant, Be whatever you must be. The answer lies in going a step forward. Learn to read between the lines. Ask them about their beliefs, their values, purposes, goals, missions. Understand what makes them who they are. Don't try to force them to be someone who they are not. Rather, be their strength and someone to rely upon. Hey, you want to solve the climate problem? Great. What is your idea? Do you have a plan in mind? And where do you want to start from? Wonderful. Let's sit and talk and understand how we can turn this vision into a reality. What you need to understand is that you are not creating the leaders of tomorrow, you are creating the leaders for generations to come. You need to know how to break the cycle. And nobody is telling you that you have to do it by yourself. You are not alone. The leaders of tomorrow also need your help. So all you need is to ask them to teach you how to teach them. It's an easy game once you understand what leadership is all about. Figure it out. I hope this was helpful.